Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars.
SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. Are we heading for an insolvency Armageddon? Sounds extreme, doesn't it? But with interest rates, energy and living costs skyrocketing, a lot of people are potentially facing the loss of their business. Chartered accountant Jacqui Clarke has written a book titled Stop Worrying About Money, Start Planning Now to Secure Your Financial Future. Planning being the operative word, she says there are things you can do to prevent your own business failing, which she outlines in a moment. Jacqui begins by explaining to Chris Ashmore some cold hard facts about the insolvency crisis we're facing right now.
Our business failures in Australia have actually doubled in this first quarter of 2023. So you may well have read, and a lot of people will have picked up on things like construction businesses going bust. But to give you an example, something like 243 construction businesses failed in the month of March this year.
Wow.
So it's pretty frightening, and sort of followed fairly closely by accommodation and food businesses, retail businesses, and then manufacturing and transport. So there's no doubt that the economic conditions that are impacting businesses that we're hearing about, such as the cost of debt essentially, but also the drop in government support from the pandemic has also impacted these businesses.
Now, you've written a book, Stop Worrying About Money. Might be hard to do for some people, but you have a list of ways to prevent business failure. If we could look at some of them, one of them is creating a living business plan. Can you explain?
I think what I see with businesses often, people will say, where's your business plan? And you go, oh, here it is. And you get it out of the bottom drawer and you're into paragraph 3 and you're thinking, oh my goodness, we didn't do that, or we did something completely different. So I actually think that one of the most important things is having what I call a living business plan, which is one that is strategic regarding the business, but it's something that you share regularly with your team and you review it regularly. So it's not a set and forget process. I think that's the most important thing. It can be completely fluid. It can be changed, but actually it's like the guidebook, if you like, for how we're going to do business. But it's how we treat our people, how we treat our customers, what market segments we're going to operate in. So that's really my it's not my number one thing, but it's certainly something that I see is really important for businesses to keep that alive.
Absolutely. And another one on your list is getting financial support or backing. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, look, I certainly can. The first place people go, I think, when they're looking to start up a business or grow a business is to the bank. The banks haven't been that easy. They're not great at lending against cash flow in businesses. And anyone who's transitioned from being an employee thought money was easy to get when you had a regular monthly salary. Once you move into your own business, it's quite different. So there are other options. I think of co-investment as an option. I think of seed funding as an option. All of these options either will include bringing someone else into the equity of your business, which is into the ownership, or some other type of facility where they're lending money into the business. It could be a little bit more expensive than a bank, but they might also bring other skills and capability with them that might be helpful for you in growing the business. So just some other options there for people to consider. But again, to go down that path, you need to have a great business plan, which goes back to the earlier point.
You know, Mazars have been a long-time supporter of SoundCartel, and now they're helping us bring you this podcast. To find out how Mazars can support your business, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.
Well, that leads us to managing cash flow. And what mistakes do you see businesses when it comes to cash flow?
Some of the information you'll find that's quite readily available when we talk about business failure is that cash flow management is probably the number one reason why businesses actually fail. And what I see a lot, and I see this with business owners, and I do see this with people who have investment income, is they don't set aside taxes to pay them on their monthly or quarterly basis. So the first sign that there's stress in a business is when businesses aren't meeting their business activity statement deadlines and the payments. So just paying your GST, something simple. It comes in, you've earned it from a client, you need to set it aside so that you can then remit that to the taxman. So it's just a little sign that when things start going pear-shaped on the cash flow front, that the first place that people go or fall down on is actually not meeting their quarterly obligations. It goes the same with PAYG. When you're paying your employees, you've got to deduct the tax from their wages. That money needs to be remitted to the tax office. The first sign, again, that there's some type of stress is the money's not in the bank for you to pay it on. So the other thing I do mention, Chris, which I think is really important, is matching of income and expenditure. So in a business, if you send a bill to somebody and you ask for payment in 7 days, then naturally if you get a bill, you pay it in 7 days, give or take. If you have a business where you invoice somebody on 30-day basis and then you're making payments on a 7-day basis, there's a mismatch. And so you can be out of cash depending on those types of cycles. So it's just another thing to contemplate when you're running your business, is to see how you can sort of assimilate. And I say teach people how to treat you. If you're working with a regular supplier or customer, you can get into an agreement with them about how you treat each other when it comes to invoicing or payments.
Another point on your list is growing too quickly. That can lead to failure.
Yeah, growing pains, no matter where you start a business, are fairly common. So they're not necessarily leading to business failure per se, but if you grow too quickly and you aren't looking after your customer, then things will start to drop off somewhere along the line. And you might also rush to sign contracts and not do the appropriate due diligence. So say, for example, with the construction companies that have gone bust this year, they've gone bust because they had fixed price contracts. And they've been really unlucky because the cost of timber and other materials have gone up so substantially that they can't actually do anything about that. They just simply can't deliver on those contracts. So I think equally for you and your business, it's something to think about. If you rush and you start to grow, you start to lose quality control. And it could lead to failure if your customers decided there was a competitor that was delivering better service than you.
Any final thoughts, Jacqui, on how to prevent business failure?
Yeah, look, I think the main one, Chris, is around getting support, having good people around you. So that one of the things I think for any business owner is recognising your strengths and your development needs, but making sure there are people around you who can actually fill in those gaps. So I think that's the number one thing, is actually having people who can support you on your journey as a business owner. So have a good relationship with your accountant, have a good relationship with your 2IC. Make sure that you foster those relationships and don't let things go too long.
That was Jacqui Clarke, author of Stop Worrying About Money. Business Essentials Daily is a SoundCartel podcast. Producers are Nick Schildberger, Chris Ashmore, Jeff Waters and myself. Technical production by Pete Letts. I'm Nicole Goodman. Thanks for listening. We'll bring you more B Daily next week. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.